Okay, good. Okay, well, good afternoon and welcome to this next seminar in the Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence series. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Livio Fenga, who's fairly recently joined the university. He's an expert in, I have to read this, econometrics and empirical economics, and he also has a second PhD, I think, in economic statistics. Yeah. So beware of challenging him on those things. He's been working in California, but we're lucky that he has swapped the Californian sunshine for the Exeter sunshine, and he's joined us here. He's also turned his attention to thinking about whether you can predict terrorist attacks, and that's what he's going to talk about today. So, Livio, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being here. And of course, the topic is well known at this time, and let's. Should be.
You just need to reselect. There we go.
Okay. Strategy of the presentation. This is the dilemma all theoretical stuff, all theoretical people like myself have to consider. Outcomes versus methodology. So a lot of outcomes and a lot of methodology explanation. This is very impractical. Less outcome and more methodology is feasible, but less interesting. So this is my strategy. So I will present as much as outcome as I can and give a little bit of insight about the tool used to prove or to generate the outcomes. So it's not going to be a tutorial, but just a bit of introduction of the methodology, like a spectral analysis or wavelet theory or something like that. And then let's go to outcomes. The methodology is not going to be rigorous, formal, first because it's going to be tedious, and we are not interested in the theoretical stuff behind the fast Fourier transformation, but to the results of that. Of course, everybody is more than welcome to ask for more information, and we can meet later on. So, terrorism is, of course, an unlawful, horrible act of violence. Is used to intimidate governments and society, and is a way of communication. In essence, terrorism is a form of communication. So warfare is designed to conquer territories and capture cities. Terrorism is something much more complicated somehow, is less intuitive. So we hurt a few people to scale a lot of people in order to make a point. Of course, it's a horrible point. Whatever point it is, violence is not the way to go. But in essence, terrorism is a form of communication. A bit of history. Terrorism has a kind of long story. The first Jewish revolt is located in 2,000 years ago, and a small group of Jews resisted the Roman Empire using basically guerrilla/terrorist methods. Suicidal martyrdom is another way to go. And the worst case scenario is that terrorism is in many instances seen as a religious-driven set of actions. It's an asymmetric warfare. We think that terrorism is very asymmetric warfare. because random, unpredictable violence, which is not nor random, neither unpredictable, and I'm going to show you that is not unpredictable at all, even though it seems counterintuitive. But we have a weaker military against a stronger military, and terrorists use unexpected, unconventional tactics like sabotage, biowarfare, and something like that. So while strong military actions are slow in time and space domain, so somehow possible to more people, with military actions like terrorist actions are fast and less possible, less predictable, but still they are predictable. So, in essence, terrorism is used in times of peace, conflicts, and war. So it's irrespective of the status a certain country or centering a certain set of countries experience at that time T, terrorism is always something that can come. Fear is the main ingredient, and terrorism is a political act. There are two types of terrorism, domestic and international, but I'm going to present you data related to the combination of the two types of terrorism. Why? Because there is a strong connection between the two phenomena. So the data I'm going to present from UK, US, and Italy will be a combination of the two types of terrorism. This is not necessarily right, but so far that's what I did. So if we consider the proportion of death from terrorism in total death in the United States, we can tell that terrorism is not such a big deal from the number of deaths point of view. Look at this. 1 in 50 million was the possibility of being killed in a terrorist attack. But this is not the whole story. So we know that smoking 10 cigarettes per day can be much, much, much more harmful than terrorism. So why terrorism is so impactful? I call that the eye crush effect. This is my definition, might be wrong, of course. But aircrafts are considered technologically advanced and safe means of transportation. But in case of something goes wrong, little hope in case of an accident. Such an accident is not supposed to happen. Aircrafts are very safe. The communication aspect, newspapers, mail and other means of communications make it viral and it's also spectacular. Eye crash suddenly are spectacular, and terrorist attacks suddenly are spectacular as well. So those are official data. Many terrorist attacks are basically motivated by ideological and religious matters, but it's not the whole story. This is just an example. This is an article from 2005. Driving fatalities increased significantly following the terrorist attacks of September 11. Why? Because people used at the time different way of transportation, different means of transportation, cars. And at least 1,200 additional lives were lost as a result of that. So terrorism is not just killing a bunch of people or 3,000 people like 9/11. It's something much more related with a form of communication. It's something that's spread over in our souls, in our brains, and affects severely our lives. So those data are official, but time runs fast. So those are the effect of the terrorist attacks in the world, worldwide, and we can tell that something that is present is something that we need to deal with. And those just in the UK in 1970 and 2023, here the situation. So the absolute numbers are not stunning, but still, if we look at the phenomenon as a whole, this is something which is very, very, very worrying. Counterterrorism, this is something that in counterterrorism, nobody thanks nobody. Why? Because when an attack is prevented, usually things like that are not advertised because this is the system. But those numbers are another good indication of the spread of the phenomenon. Now, what is important to us in this moment is to see if counterterrorism can benefit from AI, statistics, and mathematics. And now, we have a lot of agencies worldwide, in Europe, a lot of bureaus, a lot of joint centers for terrorism. And I went over their websites, and I couldn't find, of course, what I'm saying now is supported by the literature. I couldn't find many attention for analytics. In premise, AI and statistics. So they are all based on intels, which is, of course, is a good thing. But there is not much room for analytics. And this is something officially released. So at the third annual global meeting on AI for law enforcement, 50% of the experts, they find rudimentary the level of AI in their institutions. Only 20% considered advanced. So this corroborates the idea that there is no much room for analytics in counterterrorism. However, I would like to stress this point. Dealing with those kind of data is just not a matter of algorithms. The approach I'm studying is an approach which is aimed at understanding and reconstruct what the underlying stochastic process. What is the underlying stochastic process? Well, there are many ways to approach this problem. All of them, this disclaimer, is not my approach, not necessarily better, no. Just one way. It's not a critique to other approaches. But I do believe that without a proper understanding of the underlying stochastic process, the data generating process, it's very difficult to come up with reliable predictions. Many approaches just say we throw data to AI systems and let's see what happens. I don't feel this is the right way to go, but I respect every ideas, of course. So the idea underpinning my research is just to work in a plateau way. So the data are something which are generated by the underlying stochastic process. The data become available, and there are plenty of noise, plenty of corruption, and then we need to extract the signal. But this is a quote from Chatfield. Statisticians must stop pretending that model uncertainties does not exist. So we cannot try thousands of models, thousands of data, throw variables. According to his point of view, published in a very reputable journal, things should be thought in different way. How? Well, the data generating process is something that we can never access. Data are just something that are generated in hyperuranium according to Plato view. Then the data become available, and we got a lot of ignorance because data are corrupted. In fact, ignorance, we have added ignorance and noise, outliers, measurement errors, a lot of problems. Then we need to work with models, and we try to make the best out of those data, which are corrupted, noisy, and very far away from the perfect data generating process. It is not necessarily wise, the extreme data mining approach. So we just throw data and we hope something happens. I know many approaches are based on this, but this is not necessarily the best way to go. So let's become familiar with our guys here. This is the number of terrorist attacks in the UK, monthly data, between June 1970 and March 2020. This is a horrible time series. It's pretty much impossible to come up with a nice model out of this. So, without bothering with the construction of the data generating process, okay, I try to have my AI system, my machine learning algorithm, okay, let this algorithm to figure it out. I don't agree with that. So what we do here is to use the pure and simple sequence of number of terrorist attacks, in this case, monthly data. And we disregard all the indicators coming from geopolitics, economics, sentiments, whatever. Why? Because terrorist data are complex in terms of dynamics, noise, spikes, ill-behaved, nonlinear, stationary, uncertainty. And all the above indicators suffer from the same exact drawbacks. So that would add uncertainty to uncertainty, and would probably lead to suboptimal results. So the way I decide to go is just to use official data from the global terrorism database and use a univariate approach. So we extract as much information as possible from these indices without considering, so from here, without considering other indicators. So I'm going to present an analysis in the time domain, frequency domain. I'm going to present some model, statistical model, and then something like wavelet multi-resolution analysis, and then the hybrid forecasting system, the black box. So let's consider it. The autocorrelation function, what is the autocorrelation function? The autocorrelation function measures the correlation between the time series and its past values. So this is the correlation between lag 1 and lag 0, lag 2 and lag 1, lag 3, lag 4, lag 5. So the probabilistic structure of the time series. And basically, this is the probabilistic structure of an AR1 process, for instance. So this is just an AR1 process. It's just a Markovian point model. So today is equal yesterday plus an error. So we have a big spike at lag 1 because it's an AR1. So let's consider, for instance, the density, the data distribution of the terrorist attacks in the United States. We can see a lot of players, but what can we do is the following. We can differentiate the data. So we can take the difference in the data. We can take the logarithm of the data, and then we can take the logarithm of differentiated data. And if we can see, we start from here, and the Shapiro test is horrible, the normality test is horrible, and we end up to something much better. It's still not normal according to the Shapiro test, but it's much, much, much closer to normality than this case here. So we can transform the data. We can start working with our hammers to make this data better. So those are the data from UK, and I think it's UK, United States, it's written UK, but it's an error, and Italy. So from here, we transformed the differentiated data, and we end up here. So from such a horrible thing like that, we end up to something like that, which is stationary, well behaved, and much more tractable. So we disregard this word, and we just dive into this one. Each country seems to show a different dynamic behavior, yes, but let us think in terms of the underlying stochastic process. This is the autocorrelation function of the UK, US, United States, and Italy. So the autocorrelation, so the probability structure is not. When we transform the data in log, differentiate data, those data, it doesn't means that the data generating process is not that different. How can we investigate that? We build up a model. So let's think in terms of spectral analysis. The power spectral density is the variance explained at determined angular frequencies. So the spectrum says that at 13 months, 8, 9 months, 3, 4 months, we have a periodicity. Periodicity in terrorist attacks, yes. And this holds for all the 3 countries. Pretty surprising. I was shocked. But the power spectral density and confirms that. So what I did, I built up a model, a simple ARIMA model. And the ARIMA model is designed to capture the variability or the periodicity in the data at 1 lag, 2 lag, 3 lag, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever lag we want to consider. So a mathematical model, a statistical model of the type ARIMA, end up with the 1, 4, 8, and 13. Those are the lags. Those are the significant lags. Is the model right? Yes, it is. It's the residuals. I'm not going to bother you with all the diagnosis checks. but I can guarantee you that the model is good. Let's think about United States. Oh, 1 and 4. 1 and 4. 8 and 9. 8, not 9. Yes, in statistics. Data are different, but the data generated processes is not the different. So again, 37 months, we have something here. 8, 9 months, and 4 months piece. The moving average structure means that the terrorism goes to waves. And this is consistent with some indoctrination, cohort-wise procedures. Italy, same story. 1, 4, 11. In Italy, the situation is much more complicated because we have a lot of zeros. But still, what does it mean? Let's compare. The ARIMA models are not that different. And this is consistent with the data, with the common data generation process. And let's see the fitting. Not bad. So when I fit all my data, the ARMA models generate something like this. What is here? Noise and long walls. Long walls are here. Last notice. In this setup, it's very nice. We can estimate the cross correlation function. So how a time series effect drives another one. And look at this. US versus UK. US drives the terrorist attacks in the UK by 3 months. US versus Italy, 10 months. So there is a negative correlation. A positive correlation, UK versus Italy. So they are weak, but statistically significant connections. So there's a lagging, leading lagging setup here at work. So use the sequence of the terrorist attacks data. Are ill-behaved, but we can transform those data. Are not unpredictable because I could with an ARMA model that can be predicted. And we can model the linear part, not the non-linear part, the linear part. So we model the linear part of the time series, not the non-linear. Lone wolves are not linear. So let's make some example here. So this is the training set, and this is the test set. So I'm going to show you the prediction one step ahead in the test set. So the mathematical model is acting about the future. Here are the results. Not very good. Not great. Yeah. So a month before, we make those errors here. So the model seems to fail. Yes. Why? Because ARMA models are not the best way to go. But I use the ARMA models not for prediction, but to frame my discussion in a stochastic data generating process reconstruction setup. Now, let's use the setup model, which is a threshold, self-exciting threshold autoregressive model, is switched between two regimes, 1 and 2. So there are two autoregressive models for high regimes and low regimes. And this is what we got here. Those are the three statistical models I estimated. The residuals are good, so the models are still valid. But still, I can prove you that the indicators are better. The indicators are better than the ARMA, but still they are not great. Why? They perform better. They provide useful insights because they're two agents. They provide information in terms of delay, the delay term. I didn't introduce the delay term. The delay term is this one here. So before the time series switches from region 1 to, this can be 3 times before. So 2 months before the switching time, this equation remains valid. So it's valid when we consider a delay between the switching time and the actual time. But still, the models are good, but not that good. So what I used is a much more complex system using an extreme learning machine, which is a fast neural network, very fast. Is able to, because when we got an intel, we got some information, we need to process information very fast, very quick. So it's able to generate nice results in approximately 400 to 500 minutes, not less than that. But still, it's good. And let's keep the mathematics of this. So I use that, the extreme learning machine and a time scale domain in a multi-resolution setup. I'm going to show you that I can break down the time series in different frequency bands. How? Using wavelets. Wavelets are little wave designed to fit the time series through dilatation and compression of the wave in order to extract frequency bands. This is the wavelets. So we stretch or compress this data in this way. So this is the time series. Let's suppose that the black is the time series. Wavelets are designed to be shifted and stretched in order to capture the different frequencies. There we go. Original data, 2 months, 4 months, 8 months, 16 months, 32 months frequency, and long waves. So we have basically the trend. So we don't work. Now it's much more complicated. We are not working with the data generating process. That's it. When we work in the data generating process, we split the data generating process in different bands, and we work on these bands. So, first of all, by just having this tool, the decision maker can have a nice idea of the trends, the long term, the 32 months term. So it can somehow, long walls are here. And the tendency, the long-term tendency is stored in those two bands. So we can, at our willing, to decide how many bands. In this case, we have 4 bands plus long term, or 3 bands and long term. So it's up to us. It's called multi-resolution analysis. And now we are not going to predict the whole thing, I'm going to predict just things, and then we sum them up. So this is the in-sample prediction, not bad at all. So what I did is just deconstructed the time series, predict each of them, and rebuild the signal. But it's not prediction. So this is just this setup here. I just changed the scale of the plots. Same thing. I can predict each of them. So if I want to predict the long term, I use this value here. So the fitting is not bad at all. It's not the fitting, it's the forecast. It's a one step ahead forecast. It's a pure forecast. Look, the error is very small. But we are working on the deconstructed signal. Now, we use setter here, and we use the extreme learning machine here. Extreme learning machine performs not great for when we are trained, but it performs much better with high frequency data. Then we can not only we can predict each of them, but we can what? We can predict each of them, and coming back to the original scale, it is the inverse maximum overlapping discrete Rayleigh transform, and that's what we got. When we got the reconstruction of a setup model, this is the one step ahead prediction. This is the one step ahead of the prediction of the extreme learning machine, and then I combine both of them, and this is the final prediction. Gentlemen, this is a one step ahead prediction of our terrorist data. In essence, what I did is a combination of the setup. I just combined the reconstruction of the two regime setup and the reconstruction from the extreme learning machine. So the extreme learning machine and the setup models worked on these predictions, and then they are combined. It's just not a sum. It's just it's called convolution. So the mathematics behind that is pretty scary, doable. But the big deal is that in the test set, we got a root mean square error of 1.48, 2.88 in the case of extreme learning machine, 3.40 in the case of the setup model. And this is the combination using a very simple regression-based combination method, just a regression. It's not a big deal. And these are the results, which are pretty, at least on my standpoint, they're pretty impressive. Because again, we work just on the univariate time series. I think I'm on 14, so